Nothing is more central to the MAGA ideology than hypocrisy. Donald Trump has quite literally built his political career off shamelessly lying, telling working class voters that he had their backs. The guy with the gold toilet, yes, said that lie only for him to ship their jobs overseas and then make sure that their employers, who don't pay them a living wage, by the way, got nice big tax cuts. That's what Donald Trump was all about. But the hypocrisy doesn't just start on the lies of Donald Trump's economic positions. It, of course, extends into his central policy position, his mass deportations, which have been blowing up in his face lately, especially as it relates to those closest to him, including his wife, Melania, who was just mocked and exposed by a Democrat in the worst way for Trump. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into how Melania was humiliated, I want to start on this very topic of Donald Trump's illegal deportations with what Barack Obama had to say about ICE's attacks.
He's deploying the National Guard in American cities, claiming to stop crime waves that don't actually exist. We've got masked ICE agents pulling up in unmarked vans and grabbing people, including U.S. citizens, off the streets on the suspicion that they don't look like real Americans. We've got an HHS secretary who opposes proven science and promotes quack medicine. A top White House aide who calls Democrats, the whole party, domestic extremists.
Literally nobody wants this, and I'm not talking about that Netflix show. I think it is. Nobody actually wants these mass deportations. Even Joe Rogan, who advocated for the mass deportations until he realized that mass deportation meant mass deportation, and Donald Trump, who said that he would sic the military on the enemy from within, was actually going to go through with that position. Can we just take a time out real quick before we get to Melania to talk about how idiotic these guys were, and now they get to make an extra living, and they get to double down on their political position, on their dipping their toe into the water of politics. All of these idiotic podcasters who don't want responsibility for their words, their actions, or their endorsements. Now they're like, oh, well, I am still just asking questions. I'm just a bro, and so now I'm going to talk about that the ICE raids are terrible, which I'm glad they are. But you do bear some burden. You bear some responsibility, Joe Rogan. I just had to say that. But nobody wants this to be happening except for a very sick and small contingent of Americans who, honestly, if you want to see your fellow citizens and even people who are here and are not documented, if you want to see them ripped from their community, I don't really think that you're an American, but the hypocrisy of these attacks is just so obvious. Jasmine Crockett called it out a few months ago. I want to see what she had to say about Melania before we get into the recent attack that has Donald Trump losing it.
And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
Why this, I don't want to call it an attack, but why this messaging from Jasmine Crockett works so well, and why the other messaging about Melania that we're going to see that gets Donald Trump so angry is so impactful to me, is because it speaks to something that Donald Trump has really weaponized for his political movement, which is a feeling, and a true feeling, that all of these systems in our country are broken, and they disproportionately reward a very select few willing to abuse those systems. That's what Melania Trump did. That's what Donald Trump did. They abused a broken immigration system that Republicans don't want to change. Why? Because they love running on the issue more than they do fixing issues. That's what it's about. If there was no border crisis, if we did have an immigration system that worked, not to say that there's currently a border crisis, but they couldn't run on the issue and they couldn't fearmonger and try to scare you. So I think this is the right thing to point out, which is exactly why a Democratic congressman is making light of Melania once again to prove the point about these ICE raids. Dem uses Melania to torch Trump's ICE raids. A Democrat has invoked the First Lady to torch Donald Trump's assertion that ICE raids were not going far enough. Rep. Jimmy Gomez, who represents a portion of Los Angeles devastated by raids this year, expressed shock that 79-year-old Donald Trump still wants ICE to turn things up a notch. Gomez posted on Monday, "Haven't gone far enough," referring to Donald Trump's 60 Minutes interview. "Any further and ICE will be deporting Melania." First Lady Melania Trump, 55, was born in Slovenia. She then moved to the United States in 1996. Melania became a U.S. citizen in 2006, a year after marrying Donald Trump. As such, she cannot be deported, though her husband has flirted with the idea of flying American citizens to a hellhole prison abroad like those in El Salvador. The White House did not respond to a request for comment about Gomez's post. Gomez was quote tweeting a segment from Trump's heavily edited interview on 60 Minutes on Sunday. CBS host Norah O'Donnell said then, "Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, and the smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far?" Trump answered without hesitation, "I think they haven't gone far enough, because we've been held back by the judges, by the liberal judges that were put in place by Obama and Biden." The president continued his little freak out by saying that it was okay, and he was okay with the violent tactics, like bursting through doors, tear gassing protesters, smashing car windows, and raiding apartment buildings in the dead of night. "You have to get people out," Trump said. The overwhelming majority of those swooped up by ICE in recent months are migrants who have not committed a crime in their home country or in the United States. One of Donald Trump's top advisors, Stephen Miller, even ordered that ICE send its agents specifically to Home Depot locations in search of day laborers to provide food for their families. Who does this really appeal to, and why? It's sick, it's twisted, it's gross, it's un-American. And I would also say that often what you hear from these conservatives when they're talking about why mass deportations to them are so important, they describe it as this broader economic plan. They think that if you remove people who really undergird our whole economic system in this country, laborers who are oftentimes like barely paid, even below living wages, like truly, I don't want to like say slave labor, but like they are paid so little because it is all under the table, it is all cash, that it is a tremendous benefit to a lot of businesses in this country. It keeps food really cheap. It keeps hospitality cheaper. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a good thing, of course, but the argument by Republicans is that if you take those people away who work so hard, such long hours in jobs Americans are unwilling to do, then the jobs they're doing will be taken by Americans who don't want to do them. And because they don't want to do them, they'll be paid more for them, thus making those products, those experiences, those restaurants, those hotels more expensive, which is what Donald Trump has done to everything in our country. So the economic theory doesn't even work. It doesn't. The morality is off, but the economics as well fall flat. So what's the point? Well, the point is the cruelty. The cruelty is always the point. That's what they want to do. These are weird, sick freaks who live in their mom's basement. These are Proud Boys. These are Oath Keepers. These are like fucking weirdos in chat rooms who just like go home to watch, just like, I don't even want to get in. I could rant about these people. Someone who had a much better description was Jasmine Crockett.
But just like you can have somebody at the top that sets the tone for ugliness going down, you guys are blessed because in the city of Chicago, you have a mayor. You have a mayor that has decided that he will not back down. He will not bend to this administration. And instead, he will stand up for the people. You have a man of valor that is going up against a villain, and I think that we have to make sure, especially while we're in his city, that we recognize his leadership because it is invaluable. Now, some people think that this is all about Chicago, but I want people to understand that this cancer is infecting us everywhere, and if you don't think that it can come to your city, well, I've got news for you. You see, we've been talking about the cruel and unusual punishment that is in violation of the 8th Amendment that is being handed out. And honestly, it's a spit in the face of every American that we have an actual convicted felon that feels aggrieved to the extent that he feels like he's owed hundreds of millions of dollars when people are literally dying under our watch. Recently, I just sent a letter, it looks like on October 22nd, to Kristi Noem. And one of the things that I laid out is that we have seen the most detainee deaths in ICE custody in a single year in decades, with 20 deaths in the last 9 months compared to 24 deaths in the past prior 4 years. Now, this week, we learned that an individual who went to the Dallas ICE field office for a routine visit, meaning that they were doing things the quote unquote right way, they were detained. They knew that this individual had diabetes and required insulin every 2 hours. Despite ICE having been told this, the individual was denied access to their medication for 8 days, resulting in hospitalization. There are some that say that we are making America great. But to me, it doesn't feel like greatness. It feels like grossness. That's right. And in fact, I want to ask a few questions, and it doesn't matter who answers them. Is it great or gross to go into people's houses and drag them out in the middle of the night?
Gross.
Is it great or gross to make people afraid to do something as simple as go to school?
Gross.
Is it great or gross to make hard-working people say, I am too scared to show up to my job?
Gross. Extremely gross.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for your courage. Thank you so much for showing up. And Miss O, I want to tell you that I understand that your mother is being detained in El Paso. I did go and visit that facility. I want you to know that I am always on my job. Oh, you're back.
It's all about the intimidation. I'm glad Jasmine's not holding back because she shouldn't, and we won't. We're going to continue to call him out on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let him silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.